Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome to our Friday lunchtime learning session. And I'm here with Rachel PERU, who is an amazing woman. She is a silver-haired curve model, a body confidence activist, and the podcast host of the Out of the Bubble podcast. So Rachel, hello and welcome, and it's lovely to have you here. How are you?
Hi, Lucy. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here because I've enjoyed, you've had some great guests on. It's been really great to listen to everybody. So thank you for inviting me.
It's great to have you. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about body confidence after 40. So tell us your story.
Yeah, I mean, I am now a silver-haired curve model. So my passion is modeling lingerie and swimwear. I turned 50 last year. But if you'd have asked me if I was going to be doing this in my 20s and 30s, there is absolutely no way at all. I really struggled with my body confidence. I had very low self-esteem. I can see now, looking back, how much it held me back in life. And I said no to things because of that fear of putting myself in situations where I might be judged and I didn't feel comfortable in my body. And flip that to now in my 40s to start a modelling career at 46 and then find myself modelling lingerie in my 50s. I can't believe it's the same person, really. And it's been such a liberating experience. But I did start this new career at 46 and it's opened up so many new opportunities and new doors for me.
It's amazing. I mean, all of what you say is almost unbelievable because you don't look as if you've ever had or ever needed to have a lack of body confidence. You look as if you've probably been modeling all your life, and it all seems extraordinary. So how did the modeling come about?
I got divorced at 40. And I'd been with my first husband since I was 16. So that's a massive chunk of your younger years. I went into adulthood. So finding myself single at 40 with 3 kids, it's about that I really had to discover who I was. And I really had to learn about the things that I liked in life and what I could achieve. And I recognized that I'd been holding myself back. So I made sure that I went into my 40s knowing that I was going to be braver and to take some bigger decisions. So for my 40th, I actually jumped out of a plane and did a tandem skydive, and I'm terrified of heights. But I thought, how can I mark this next chapter? So I actually went to university and got an education studies degree, thinking that I would go into teaching. So that's what I had planned to do until my retirement. I thought I'd do early years teaching because I loved that. And during that time, a friend had volunteered me to do some modelling for a local Macmillan charity fashion show. And so I said yes, and hadn't done anything like this before. We did it, lots of gin and tonics later, came off, had a great time, really loved it. And I came off stage feeling really empowered, and I felt it was at a time when my confidence was really quite low, and I gave me such a lift, and I did instantly feel like, oh, I want to do that again. And I carried on doing it every year. Life continued. I'd volunteered each year. And the more I did it, the more I could see that it was something that really sparked something in me and that I felt really comfortable doing. And the photographer had mentioned how photogenic I was. Some of the professional models that were also in this fashion show had said, have you thought about doing some modelling? So I got to 46 after 6 years of doing it and thought, well, why not try it? What have I got to lose? My 3 children were, my youngest was 14 then, so it was easier to imagine doing something different. And I sent off my photos to some agencies, thinking I might get some local work, and it would be a bit of a sideline, a bit of a hobby. And a London agency decided that they would represent me pretty much straight away, and then I had to take it more seriously.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's incredible. That must have been was that both empowering and scary at the same time when you got taken on by an agency?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talk a lot, at the moment about imposter syndrome. It seems like it's in everybody's conversation at the moment, but that was real for me. I really did think, how can I actually pull this off? Am I good enough? Am I going to be able to manage it? But at the time, I'd thought that it would be lifestyle fashion, a bit of beauty things. I hadn't really appreciated what was out there. So I just didn't go in there with any expectations and just kind of went with the flow, and said yes to stuff and just worried about it later. And luckily, it kind of all clicked into place slowly.
Fantastic. So how did you get into the lingerie modeling particularly, and how does that feel for you as a slightly older woman?
Yeah, it's something. When I did go into the modeling, lingerie was just not on my list, because even though it's interesting, people talk about body confidence and think that when you've found it, then that's it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's a done deal. But actually, body confidence is something that you always have to work on. So even though I had found my confidence in my kind of 40s, to then take that to lingerie was a huge step, and it's something that I hadn't really thought about. But there was an American swimwear brand called Swimsuits for All, and I really like their brand. I really like how diverse and inclusive their campaigns are. Huge fan of Ashley Graham, the American model. And so I sent them a note on Instagram within my first year of modelling, saying how much I liked their brand, and that if they ever needed a silver curve-haired model, then I would love to work with them. Thinking nothing, I thought, they might just say thanks for getting in touch, but that would be it. And they wrote back and said, well, actually, your timing is perfect, because that's exactly what we're looking for our next campaign. Would you be interested?
Wow.
So within the first year, I ended up flying out to the Bahamas for a week and shooting a video with Ashley Graham and the American singer Lizzo. So
that sounds like everybody's dream. That's just
incredible. It was, but it was, I was 47 years old, and Mark, my husband, took me to the airport, Heathrow, and practically had to prize me out of the Heathrow toilets, because I was so scared, and I'd got myself in such a state, thinking, what the hell am I doing going to model somewhere at 47? Why do I think I can do it? But I came back a different person, because I could see how they made me feel amazing, because hair and makeup teams always do that. And the photos and the photographer was really fantastic. But the feedback I got from other women of my age group on social media was the thing that really shifted for me, my mindset.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, they were really like, thank you for representing us. I can see somebody that looks like my body shape for my age. And so that was the thing for me that was a real turning point, that actually I can model swimwear and lingerie, and I think it's something that I really enjoy doing. And now it is my favourite jobs. Absolutely love working with lingerie brands.
That's amazing. A really extraordinary story. So how do you pass on your what happened that gave you the body confidence? Did it suddenly come after that shoot, or was it something that had been growing? And let's start from the beginning. Why did you not feel body confident when you were younger? You look to me as if you're tall, slim, and probably always were. And why would you not have that confidence?
I'm a size 14-16, which the UK model industry is classed as plus size, believe it or not, even though that's the national average. And I've always been curvy when I was younger, and all my friends, I was surrounded by very tall, slim, blonde, long-legged girls, and I wasn't like that. I've always had big boobs. I'm a 34G, so by the time I was 16, I was probably a double D. And I was so self-conscious of that. And I really felt uncomfortable. And I felt like it was something that, I would change. My posture would change because of it. Because I would, rather than putting my shoulders back, I would hunch down, because I didn't want to draw attention to it. And so I think that was all those things, just that comparison, that self-comparison to other people. I just never felt like I was good enough. And even right up to my 30s, for my 30th birthday, I had decided I was going to get breast reduction, and I had the appointment booked at the specialist. I'd been through all the meetings, had the hospital appointment booked, and I actually changed my mind at the last minute, because it's, for me, it wasn't the right thing to do, and I realized I had to work on my mindset and not my actual physical appearance. Well, I'm glad I didn't, because now it's the thing that helps me make money modeling.
Absolutely. So you realized you had to work on your mindset. That was a kind of wake-up call for you, actually thinking that you might have cosmetic surgery. And then, definitely. So what did you do then? What did working on your mindset entail for you?
It wasn't anything to do with my body. It was getting on with life and saying yes to things. So I did the tandem skydive. I then volunteered in Uganda and India for 2 charities, working in orphanages, and travelled there on my own and with a bunch of strangers. So I think for me, it's been pushing myself out of my comfort zone and trying new experiences and saying yes to things. Because the more I did that, I could see my own growth, and it was nothing to do with my physical appearance. The things that were making me happy in life and that I was getting the most out of was absolutely nothing to do with my dress size or what I weighed on the scales. And so I stopped slowly thinking about that. So, I've not weighed myself in years, and I don't think about what dress size I am anymore. It's not something that I'm conscious of. Whereas before, I would be the person that would cut all the dress sizes out of the clothes just in case anybody saw them, So it was more about the life experiences and saying yes, and I'm just pushing myself all the time to try new things, try new adventures, try new sports. And then the physical stuff just slowly kind of fell into place, really.
That's so interesting. So do you think that 40 is a kind of make or break age in a way? I mean, 40 is when you kind of, I don't know, do we still put the sort of, you go from youth to middle age, aged 40? I mean, maybe not, maybe, I don't know, but is it a kind of watershed time in a woman's life, do you think, where you either decide to, if you haven't had body confidence, to kind of really make a change? Or actually, I mean, I think it's a time when a lot of women lose body confidence at that age, isn't it? If you've had it when you were younger, you start to think, my body's not what it was, kind of thing.
Yeah, there is definitely 2 camps, because I talk to so many women that have, like myself, almost reinvented themselves in their 40s and have got to a stage perhaps where their children are now off leaving home and going to university, and so they've got that whole empty nest syndrome. The husbands may have had an amazing career that they've spent time at home supporting, and you do get, for me, I got to that point, well, actually, what do I want out of life? And I've got to this point, and now it's the next chapter, and if I don't do something now, then, is it going to be too late? And for me, that was the burning thing for me inside, was, if I don't do this now, will I look back and regret not trying more things in life? But then I speak to so many women that were really amazingly confident in their 20s and 30s, and feel like they've lost their sense of who they are when they get to midlife.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot to do with the media and the pressures that are put on women in society, the advertising, because we don't see ourselves enough in these campaigns, that it's very hard to feel like you can be represented and you can relate to people that look like you. So then you start looking back at the younger generation, which brings that sense of loss. So there is definitely 2 camps, but for me, it was definitely about, okay, the clock's ticking now, and what you're going to do with the next half of your life, hopefully.
Yeah, so Michaela says, do you have an exercise or wellness regime, Rachel?
I've never been a gym goer. I have tried many memberships. I have, endless times when I've joined the gym in January and decided that it was a waste of money by March. But I live in Yorkshire, so I like being outdoors. And I've got dogs, so I really enjoy walking and getting outside. I like yoga and swimming. I like wild swimming, but none of those things are religious things that I do on a daily basis. I do them when I can, or if I'm in the right frame of mind, or if I've got a lingerie campaign, officially I probably should be the one that works out and does stuff. And I have noticed that I don't do that anymore, because I think, well, they book me knowing what I look like, and this is who I am, so I am just turning up as I am now, and that's a nice place to be.
That's fabulous. Yes, because I mean, you think of fashion models, especially younger fashion models, I suppose, who are constantly keeping their weight as low as possible, working out. At least that's the impression I get. That's what they do, and it's absolutely wonderful to hear that somebody older who is in this same world isn't worrying about, you are what you are, and also that's what people appreciate. Have you ever had any kind of comments about that at all?
Yeah, I have had a lot of people saying, thank you for not kind of, because I think sometimes social media is a great place and I've met so many amazing connections, but equally they can put a lot of pressure on women. And I
Yeah.
think if we constantly see messages of, look at this amazing person doing yoga 3 times a week and doing this, that, and the other, and that's all they share, you do start thinking, well, why am I not doing that? Should I be doing that? My body's not good enough because I can't do that. So I think it's about having that balance, isn't it? If I do some exercise, if I'm running, if I'm training for something, I might share a bit of it, but I don't do it on a daily basis and ram it down people's throats. So I think it's about finding that balance. And I think people are drawn to people that are authentic, aren't they? In whatever they're doing for a career.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And Rachel and Michaela are saying, yay, way to do it, hurrah. I think everybody's delighted that you're a successful model who's not telling us all to take more exercise and kind of have a fitness regime that none of us are going to do. Yeah. So what about eating? Do you have you look wonderfully well and healthy. Do you have a particular diet? I don't mean a diet, but do you eat consciously well?
No, no. I love food. There's not many beetroot and celery are the only two things that I don't really like. I try and I guess I have a healthy, balanced diet. I don't choose not to eat anything. So I don't restrict myself. And if I want to have a piece of chocolate, then I'll have a piece of chocolate and I won't worry about it. But I think it's about everything in moderation, isn't it? And I think I've been on every single diet you can think of, from being probably about 13, 14, right up until being 40, I've dieted. And so to not have that, I've got 2 daughters and a son, and I'm really conscious of the fact that I want to make sure that they appreciate that they don't have to diet all the time. It's not about, life's not about that, because I wish I'd had better role models to look up to when I was that age.
Yes, I was going to ask you if you had daughters, because I didn't know, and that's really interesting about what you say to younger people. I mean, you must be a fantastic role model to them. You're amazing to have your mum being the about your mum being the the swimwear model in her 50s. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think they are proud of me, and we just body confidence, and we have these conversations around the kitchen table. I've got a son as well who's 21. We don't follow each other on social media, my son and I, and that's fair enough, because I think there's boundaries. But my girls are super supportive and completely get what I'm doing, and I hope that that's had an impact on their body confidence as well.
I'm sure, yes. Yeah. Do either of them look like following in your footsteps as a model, or?
No, I think they couldn't think of anything worse right now. And that's fine. I think, they're obviously proud of me, but there's also that level of disinterest, which is a healthy attitude for young teenagers and adults to have from their parents.
No, that's great. So those of us who are over 40, how would you, if we're not feeling particularly body confident, what tips would you give us? What would you suggest will be the right way to improve that?
One of the key things for me that I started doing when I was about 40 was journaling. Right. And keeping a gratitude diary. So really focusing on 3 or 4 things at the end of the day that you are grateful for your body for. So, instead of kind of being critical about your day and how your body's let you down, actually turning it around and saying, look what my body's achieved today. It's got me through a really busy working day, or I've, had a really long walk and my legs have always been there for. So really that was a great way for me to feel more connected to my body. Because I think that's the thing in midlife, you do start feeling disconnected, because there is a shift from that person that you were when you were younger to moving into this new chapter. And I think it's about finding that reconnection. So journaling for me and gratitude diaries was a fantastic way of doing that. And that's something that's now part of my evening routine. So I'll sit in bed and do it. And my husband will say, what you're writing about me now in your diary. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's nothing to do with you. It's my body. So I love doing that. I think the way we talk about our bodies, I think we really have to be very aware of when we're with groups of girlfriends, how the conversation can flow, because there is this tendency when you get a group of women together that will almost have a competition to see who can critique themselves the most and, you know, say a horrible comment. And somebody might say, oh, no, my hair looks dreadful today. And then another woman will join in and say, well, if you think your hair's bad, look at it. And it becomes a really negative narrative that we all get involved in. And I think we've got to try and stop that, because the way we talk about our bodies, we wouldn't talk about that to a friend about their bodies. So I think it's creating those boundaries for ourselves. So if we do get into it, I think, you know, we've got to pull each other up on it and say, actually, you can't say that about yourself. You know, that's not true. Let's stop that talk. I think women together can be powerful, but also we can also be very destructive with each other.
Yes, that's really true. I hadn't thought of that as actually women. I mean, I think it's often said, or sometimes said, that, you know, men bond around success. So men in groups are always kind of saying how great they are to each other and promoting themselves. But in general, women do kind of bond around failure, don't they, and often guilt and so yes, that's a really good point, that actually we really should not do that in relation to our bodies, and perhaps in relation to other things as well.
Exactly. It applies to all areas of life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's about, you know, trying to lift each other up instead of knocking ourselves down in front of others. Because if we do that in front of others, what kind of message are we sending out there to everybody about how we feel about ourselves?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Michaela says that is so interesting. There are those experiments about talking to plants or even glasses of water in a positive, negative way, and how they thrive or not, depending on how they're spoken to. So this all makes complete sense. Very, very helpful. Yeah, no, that's so true. Rachel also says, yes, it's a great idea. I'm not sure whether that was the journaling or the talking or both. Michaela says, do you think if I tell my stomach how grateful I am for it being toned and flat, it will become toned and flat? Let's all try that.
No, but you might start worrying about it being toned and fat as well.
Yeah, I suppose the point is that you shouldn't worry. You shouldn't, as you say, shouldn't feel the necessity perhaps for it to be toned and flat. That it is, however it is, it's you, and it's now, and you should be comfortable with that. But Rachel, what if you're really not comfortable with your body? What do you suggest then? I mean, what kinds of how do you get past that sort of either, I mean, say you have put on weight, or you know, or you are more well, as we all are, more wrinkled than we used to be. How do we kind of come to terms with the aging process?
I think you start by taking really small steps. So I think you focus on the one thing. Just think of one thing that you like about yourself in the morning, and make a conscious effort. You know, if it's you've got a nice smile, make a point of during the day smiling as much as you can. Make a point of, you know, using the one thing that you feel good about yourself and focus on that. And then you can gradually build it up. So then the next week or in 2 weeks' time, you might add, you also really love your grey hair. And so you're more conscious of the positive things. And the more you do that, the bigger list you have, you know, you write it down, carry it in a notebook. I have a notebook that I have almost like a list of affirmations. So it's things that I'm really proud of myself that I've done in the last 10 years. Wow. And it's nothing to do with my body. So it's getting a degree at 41, it's traveling, and so if I am having a wobble and I'm having a bad day, I'll go and read that and remind myself of all the great things that I'm doing. So that takes away the balance of the negatives. So it's really shifting everything away from your body, really, and focusing, because your body is just a vessel, isn't it? That is carrying you through all the amazing things you can do in life. So it's shifting that kind of impetus on away from your actual physical body to all the great things that you're doing.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's absolutely right. What do you feel about kind of aging gracefully? I mean, you know, your hair is a beautiful shade of white. I mean, I don't know if it's completely natural or not. Mine isn't. But I mean, do you think that we should not worry about trying to change our appearance as we get older, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my grey hair is completely natural now. It's taken me about 5 years, but I think it's everybody is so different. We've got to be true to ourselves. So if you are feeling like you might want to have some work done, you know, if you want to have some Botox, for instance, I would never judge a woman for doing that, because I think it's about being the best version of yourself at whatever age you are, and whatever works for you. So if you want to continue dyeing your hair until you're 80, then do it if that makes you feel great in the morning. I think there is still a lot of judgment on women. I think there's still a lot of pressure to conform and think that they've got to look a certain way. And I think it's about letting go of all of that and saying, well, if I wake up in the morning and feel fine as I am, or actually I would like some work done, then do it. I don't think anybody should judge, really. I think we've got a long way to go before that stops, because when it does stop, then we'll all accept ourselves for who we are at whatever age, and age won't be as much of a worry. I think, you know, I'm 51 next year, and I'm looking forward to this next decade. I'm looking forward to being in my 50s and 60s. I think it's a blessing, isn't it? And absolutely. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, that's what we've got to remember, that, you know, we're here and it's a blessing to age. And I think the UK's kind of whole societal attitude to it is very different to lots of other cultures. And I think it would be nice to see older women more respected and have a more positive attitude to older women in society. And that goes down to media, advertising, you know, men's attitudes to older women. I think that there's a long way to go in that. I think we need some big changes, really.
Yes, Michaela says that was a great question, Lucy. Thanks, Michaela, and a great response. So yeah, no, that's great. I must say, I find, and it's you know, it may be just kind of lucky for me that I'm doing what I'm doing at my age, which is 66, and I'll be 67 this year. And I keep thinking, am I getting too old to do things? But I mean, I don't feel old, so I'm hoping not. But I do worry what people actually think if I tell them my age. But also I was going somewhere else with this, and I've now forgotten what I was going to. Oh yes, I know what I was going to say. People talk about older women becoming invisible. I have actually found that being older is a hell of a lot easier than being younger. I was actually, you know, sort of slim and pretty when I was young, and I don't think anybody took me seriously. But actually being older and not so slim by any means, and certainly not so pretty, I prefer that. I get taken much more seriously now than when I was younger, and I find that much more comfortable. So yeah, and
I think that's confidence, though, isn't it? Because you've found your voice, and I think maybe that comes, you know, and I know the work that you've done throughout your career, you've always found a voice. But for lots of women, they don't find. No, I didn't find my voice until I was in my 40s, and now I'm really quite happy about being visible. But I think that's so much to do with your confidence, isn't it? Is how, you know, whether you feel invisible or not.
Yes, and it's sort of like, you know, you mustn't allow yourself to think of being invisible or unattractive or, you know, anything else because you're older, because there's so much more that you have to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think self-comparison comes to that as well, which is another tip of mine, that to really make sure that social media, the people that you follow, really do give you something positive, and you don't come away feeling worse about yourself, because, you know, we're all in charge of our own feeds, and we can curate them so that they're as diverse as possible. And we don't go down that self-comparison trap, because, you know, the more diversity we see, then we understand that actually we don't have to fit in and conform. We can just be whoever we want.
Yeah. And do you think that there is still a big difference between men aging and women aging, and how the world sees them? And you know, are we kind of getting closer? Men seem to take more interest in their appearance, possibly dye their hair more, and perhaps have cosmetic, not necessarily surgery, but, you know, Botox and things more, while, you know, perhaps we're able to step away from it more.
I think men still, have the upper hand there. I think society accepts, the silver fox. There's a positive kind of stigma attached to older men. You see it in movies, don't you? And in the movie industry and the acting industry, that older men, there's lots of parts, whereas women in the 40s and 50s and 60s really have to struggle to be seen. And you look at magazines where they use somebody like Jane Fonda, but then they edit the hell out of the photo, so she actually ends up not looking anything like her. So I think I still think we've got a long way to go there. I think that society in general just don't accept women growing old gracefully and being celebrated. I think it would be so nice to see 60-year-old models on fronts of magazines without the editing, just looking their natural gorgeous selves.
Yeah, no, that will be great when that happens. That will be fantastic. Rachel pointed out, I don't know if you've seen on the news today, that the BMI is being removed from the NHS as a measure of healthiness. Have you seen that at all? Do you think?
I haven't, but I think that's good news. I think it's, I like, for instance, with sports and stuff, I never did stuff like that at school. I hated it. I hate sports. In the 1970s, sports at school was not a fun place to be. I really dread it. And now I do. If I find a sport I like, then, while swimming, I do it because it brings me joy and it gets me moving and I'm outdoors. I don't do it because I want to lose weight or I want to burn calories off from yesterday's meal or I'm worried about my BMI. So I think it's a really positive shift. I think and obviously there is this it's a fine line, isn't it? And I appreciate that because we don't want to encourage obesity and for people to be unhealthy and not feel well, but there should be a more positive attitude in encouraging them to try new things because it might make them feel better mentally more than anything else. And then when they feel in a better mental place about themselves, then everything else follows suit. But if you don't feel good about yourself in the first place, how does that encourage you to start making changes?
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say to younger people? I mean, you have daughters. What would you say to younger women who are kind of stuck in that social media, filters and perfection, and what can we do for our daughters to help them not get stuck in that lack of body confidence or feeling that they have to be perfect to be anything?
Yeah. It's really hard because there's so much peer pressure for them, isn't it? My daughters are 20, I have to get this right now, 22 and 18. And in fact, my 18-year-old is actually thinking about deleting her social media because she doesn't like it. She can see where it's going. She can see friends that completely edit themselves and don't look anything like them in reality. So I think it's about the language we use around our children, about ourselves, and about really making sure that we hold ourselves accountable. Because, if you're constantly worrying about what you look like and being negative about your body in front of your daughters, then that becomes normal, doesn't it? And they think that it's okay for them to do that. So it is about setting those examples. And I think having open conversations and looking at their social media with them and having a talk about the people that they follow and what they like and what they don't like about them, and reminding them that actually it's not real most of the time. Particularly for younger generation. I think they are trying now really hard to make it law so that people will have to say whether they've edited, campaigns, whether things being photoshopped. And I think that would be amazing to see, because then that becomes so much more open and transparent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I wonder if that'll be possible. That certainly would be really helpful. Yeah. Indeed. So Rachel, what's next for you then? Have you got a next big project that's waiting for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was back in London last week, working on another lingerie campaign, which I've obviously that's been difficult in this last year, the pandemic. So I've really missed that. So that was great to be doing. And I've used this last year to really focus on the things that I'm passionate about, and obviously body confidence is. So I've spent the last year training. So I've done some life purpose coaching qualifications and body love diploma. So I am going to start doing more body confidence coaching, because I wish I'd had somebody else to talk to about my issues when I was in my 20s and 30s. I would have, you can't regret things because it's all been part of my journey, but I would have done probably more in my life when I was younger if I had have had more people around me that were more positive about their body confidence. So I'm looking forward to exploring that and doing coaching sessions, and I've created a self-confidence self-study course. So that's exciting. So
fantastic.
and it fits with what I'm doing, which I love. So we'll see how that develops.
That sounds great. So when are you likely to be taking clients on?
I've just launched it. Yeah, no, I've just launched a self-study course, which is on my website, which is
right.
So that's rachelperu.co.uk. And I'm just starting the one-to-one coaching, and I'm going to be running a group coaching session in September. So fantastic. Yeah, so it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to this, seeing how it grows.
Yeah, no, that sounds absolutely great. And you are writing your book, aren't you?
I am, yes, I am. That's been something that I've been putting off the last couple of years. So now that I've joined your group, that it's given me the real kind of kick at the bum to get on with it. So I'm really feeling focused about that. So I'm interviewing 12 women who have started new challenges, new hobbies later in life. And then, so I'll be sharing their stories, but then I am, as a beginner, going to then go out and try and do the same. So I'm training for a half marathon. I'm learning to do some art and photography. So I'm learning different skills. So it will be kind of from a beginner's perspective as well. So it's about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and learning new things after 40.
Fantastic. That's going to be a great book. Rachel says, are you a mentor to the younger models too?
No, and I'd love to. And I would really like to do more mentoring for the younger generation. I'd really like to go into schools and do more speaking events and try and, talk about body confidence in schools and colleges. So that's something that once life starts to resume again, I'm going to look into doing, because I think it's important, because I think whilst there is this need for women over 40 to rediscover their body confidence, if you've lost it in your 20s and 30s, we need to start younger. We need to get into them younger.
Of course. Yes, absolutely. Michaela says, in the 70s and 80s, women looked far more natural. I remember those Top of the Pops album covers. And if you compare those women to how young women look now on album covers and in magazine, it's like night and day. The lashes, the lips, the brows, the makeup contouring. She says, it makes me worry for my 13-year-old daughter. Yes, I suppose that's true. I mean, I kind of grew up as a teenager in the sort of late 60s, early 70s. And I mean, I suppose my style's based on that, in that I still wear a lot of eye makeup, because to me that's what sort of that's where fashion was then, facial fashion, if you like. But yes, I suppose that actually changing the sort of the Botox lips and the very heavy false eyelashes, and it is more.
Yeah, and that's social media though, isn't it? We didn't have social media, and we didn't have influencers, and we didn't have like the Kardashians. So many young girls want to look like these people that they see having amazing lives, and actually it's what they see on social media is just a tiny snapshot of their lives, and it's not always like that, and they don't actually look like that. And it's so I think that's brought a different pressure. And whilst I love social media for making connections, I think it's harmful too, particularly for the young generation. I think it's hard.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Well, Rachel, thank you so much. This has been really inspiring and really interesting. Lots of good thoughts and ideas. Any kind of last tips for everybody to whatever age they are, to improve their body confidence?
I think just to catch yourself. So next time you're about to be negative about yourself, turn it around into something positive. Stop yourself, and then once you start doing that, it becomes a habit. Yeah,
that is a really good final tip. Yes, habits are good. Habits are everything. So, yeah, that's brilliant. Rachel, thank you so much. We'll put your website up here in the post, and anyone who wants to contact you can do that. And also let's put the Out of the Bubble podcast link in there as well.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. And if anybody wants to come and follow me on Instagram, I'm on Rachel PERU 1 on Instagram as well. So come and say hello. We'll
definitely put that there. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Rachel. It's been great. Fantastic.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Lucy.
So much.
Take care.
Bye for now. Bye, everyone.